Welcome back, everybody, for another episode of Hidden Gems. This is the video series where I talk about those books that are still probably tucked away in those back issue boxes, just kind of forgotten about, undervalued, underappreciated, oddball little things that I think are worth knowing. This week, I got a special focused episode. We are going to be doing much like my t-shirt, which is the final installment of the Cornetto trilogy. We're going to be doing those final installments of comic book series. So we are going to be doing another episode of Hidden Gems Presents The Last to Know. So we're going to be looking at those final issues that are worth probably a few bucks that you may not have known, and things just to keep an eye out for when you're digging in those back issue bins. Sometimes you might be able to score them in dollar boxes, but by and large, you'll find them in a back issue bin, and hopefully you find them for cheap. Again, I'm just trying to share some information, and you make of it what you will. Hopefully you're enjoying this series as well as everything else here on the channel. Please let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Comments do help, as well as those likes, the subscribes, and hitting those alert buttons. So this way you guys get alerted to when new videos drop basically every day here on the channel. Whether it be a new show or a short, there is new content coming at you every day here on Rennavision. So with that all said, if you want to see what books I got for you this week, all you got to do is hang on for a few seconds after the intro, and I will be right back. Okie dokie. So let's get this started. I got another dozen books to share with you, and these are all going to be final issues of series that you might have just kind of, ignored or forgotten about. Now, I'm sure you've dug in those dollar boxes and you've seen plenty of issues of Excalibur, and most of them aren't even worth that dollar would cost you to buy them. But while you're digging, maybe you can come across that final issue, which is, Excalibur issue 125. It's got the Brian Braddock and Megan wedding here, big bash finale for Excalibur. Now, this one's not going to make you rich if you find it, but it is a fun little book to go and dig out of those cheap boxes, those discount boxes. I mean, maybe find it in a back issue bin and it's only a couple of bucks, and maybe it's worth your time and effort if you actually want it. But by and large, this still is pretty cheap. But you can still see that it can flip and sell for us, $10 to $12 on occasion. You can see a couple of sales there. Asking prices can vary. As you can see, some copies could be as cheap as $10. And then there are some asking some prices like $60 for an issue like this. I don't know if this is quite a $60 book, but 10 to 15 bucks is pretty standard. So it's a fun little book to go and dig out of there. And you can even see that 9.4 is asking 90 bucks as well. So once again, condition varies, but this is kind of one of those books that gets ignored and forgotten about. And it is that final issue. It even says it right in the top corner. Last spectacular issue. Not all final issues have that, but that is one way that you can kind of pick them out if you are unsure and you don't remember the numbers. Just kind of look it over, and you might be tipped off by something there on the cover like that. The last, final. Look for those words, and you'll do better when you're digging. With that said, there's our first one. Sticking with Marvel, another run that ended. Well, I mean, it did end because they're going to eventually reboot it when we went to Marvel Knights, but the original Daredevil run. Print run was dying. They tried everything they could to reboot Daredevil over the years. I remember they gave him that black suit, and they tried to revamp him there in the 90s, and things just weren't taking. So it wound down the series here with issue 380. Those last couple, just like most series, it's not just the last issue. Sometimes it's the last few. So those 375 to 380s here are, if you find them in a dollar bin, you might want to grab them just for a couple of bucks. It's not going to, again, make you rich, but this is the last issue of Daredevil, Man Without Fear, before they rebooted it for that Marvel Knights, and Kevin Smith kind of took it over, from there. So this issue 380, however, you can see copies have sold, semi-recently for as much as $20 to $25. So you can make a few bucks if you find this cheap enough. And then you can look that copies are listed and available for, also that $20 to $25 raw mark. And then you can see there's a 9.6 asking $78. So graded copies, I mean, it is what it is. Not everybody buys slabs, but that's just to give you kind of a sense that there are slabs out there, and maybe you find a copy really cheap that's worth slabbing, and that's what you can get as far as a premium on that added cost to get it, get it graded. But still, this issue, boom, final issue of Daredevil is another one to keep an eye out for. Moving on, I'm not sure if we talked about this particular issue before, but another series, again, sticking with Marvel for another one here, is Spider-Man 2099. That first Miguel O'Hara run, classic run there in the 90s, it lasted 46 issues. And this is the final issue here, where he's fighting this futuristic vulture character here in issue 46. Once again, this is a situation where you wouldn't be tipped off this is the final issue, because certain runs just kind of ended. Like, things just got canceled. Print runs, orders went down, and the audience just wasn't there. So things just kind of ended. Not every story got wrapped up. I mean, look, Ghost Rider took almost a decade before it got wrapped up properly, right? But it happened. It happened, and it happened quite often in this kind of time for comics. This is after that 90s boom where they were printing everything, and then eventually it's like, well, even the best of characters couldn't maintain a monthly in some cases. So with that all said, Spider-Man 2099, issue 46. What does this go for? It's not too bad if you can find it. This is another $20 to $25 raw book as far as copies that have sold, and asking prices in that same kind of range. Yeah, there'll be some cheaper ones here where you might find some $15 ones. They might be a little banged up, listed as like fine, very fine, etc. And then other ones, very fine and near mint, maybe $26, $25. By and large, 20 to 25 bucks is what you can expect on the issue 46 here of Spider-Man 2099. Again, the last few issues are also worth grabbing. You'll get a little bit of a premium on some of those as well. And also kind of near the run is when you got Venom. I think we talked about the Venom books before, the Venom 2099 books, which were like issues, the high 30s, like 37, 38. It was a run somewhere in there. But by issue 46, series was done. Okay, we're going to shift and pivot on over to DC for a couple of issues. Just kind of spread things around, spread the love, and not just be an entire Marvel show or an entire Marvel channel. Granted, I am biased towards Marvel, but there's still plenty of good DC, books, plenty of good DC stuff out there. And I do collect DC as well. I just mostly have been keeping up more with Marvel the last few years. It's just, just is what it is. I don't know. I was always more of a Marvel kid, so I'm a little biased. But that isn't to say there aren't some good DC stories. With that, we do have the final issue of Superman here, issue 423. And here I'm also showing you that 75 cents. There is the Canadian version, which shows there's $1. There's collectors that collect newsstands. There's collectors that collect the Canadian price variants, things like that. So these are things you just want to keep an eye on. So 75 cents, that's the US. You see it listed as $1 like there. The example on the side there, that's the Canadian price version. You can get a little bit of a premium for those if they're in good shape too, because again, there are collectors for it. It's a special little subcategory, little niche thing that people like to go and collect. So keep an eye out for it. Know what you're looking at. Now, the final historic last issue, even in there, it says right on the front, historic last issue, very special story by Alan Moore, Kurt Swan, and George Perez. This is a solid read as well, apart from the fact that it's a decent book that you can go and find and get yourself, again, not a ton, but 10 to 15 bucks will get you for this book, depending, again, on condition and all that. And as I said, if you find a Canadian price version, you might get a couple bucks more, etc. Asking prices for this book are also in that $10, $15, $20 raw range. This is the last issue of that, original Superman run. And then it got rebooted. And then I think we got like adventures. I don't know. Superman got a little crazy, especially as we started rolling into the later, 90s type stuff. It's just which series continued after what. It's like Superman, then it continued to Adventures of Superman, then they started another Superman story. It's kind of like Spidey. Like Spidey did the same thing. And that can give you a headache when you try to wrap your head around all the web of Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Mans, Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, and etc. etc. That said, there's your last issue of Superman. Keep an eye out for. Up next, also be aware of the last issue of the Justice League of America. Yes, this is the final issue at issue 113 for Justice League America. I think this again, titles change as they go out through the runs, but the final issue here is you see the lineups completely changed as well. You got Obsidian and you got Fire there. Final issue 113. Is this the end of Justice League America? Yeah, it is. This is the end. This was the final issue. And surprisingly, I couldn't find any copies sold for this book. I found nothing. Nothing sold within the last 3 months. So just nobody's buying this crazy book. But if you did find it and you did want to buy it, I'm not telling you to pay these market prices, but it's still a $10 to $15 ask, is what I'm saying. So if you go and find this in a cheap box, final issue with Justice League, there you go. It's like a $10 to $15 book. So don't go overpaying or anything like that. Again, this is just kind of fun little things that if you're not aware of, then I'm just trying to give you some information so you know what you're looking at when you're digging in a box. Sometimes you hit a run of an obscure title that you're just not really familiar with, you don't really care about, but you're still kind of looking. You're like, what am I looking for here? Oh, I hit Excalibur. I hit Justice League. What number should I know? So that's why I'm trying to give you this information so you have something to look for when you hit those patches of stuff that's just, usually a pass. That's it. Another series that I can't believe this run lasted 100 issues, but we're here to talk about the final 100th issue of Asriel, Agent of the Bat. Jean-Paul Valley lasted 100 issues. I'm just surprised. I was in and out on that series, back in the time. I remember, Batman Sword of Vengeance. That was a great thing to go and hunt with Joe Quesada back in the day. And you had all the Nightfall stuff, which was another great time for Batman as a collector. The 90s, we had huge events, things that it captured your imagination as a kid. But spinning out of that Nightfall and whatnot, you had Jean-Paul Valley, Asriel, mixing in and becoming Batman even for a short time before, as you know what happened. But still, his solo title ran 100 issues. 100 issues. So I think it's pretty impressive. The art here is not too bad as well. They'll eventually restart it and you got another run that had those pretty cool Matina covers, but that's not what we're talking about here. This is May 2000, so this ended in the 2000. But issue 100 is the final issue of Asriel. And again, you're not going to get rich if you find this one. I'm sorry. You're not going to get rich, but this thing sells for like $10. One did sell for $24. That's why I have it listed there. That's actually what they're asking for there. So $10 to $20, but it's more of a $10 book, to be honest. Right now, there's not a lot of traction on Asriel, so it is on the lesser side. As you can even see here, my comic shop's got one for under $10, and then other copies are listed for closer to 15. But still, a fun little book to know, a fun little book to hunt. And like I said, it's a pretty cool cover. I kind of like it. I think I got one more DC for you, and another title that got rebooted a number of times. I don't remember which volume this is, but this is pre, New 52 and all that stuff. Obviously, we're going back. We're looking at Supergirl. So look for the flag. Issue 80 is the final issue of Supergirl. So this is the I'm trying to think of which run this is kind of spun out of. This was still kind of following all that Death of Superman type stuff, and that series had started. There's a couple of good issues in this run where you can go and find, I think, for a couple of bucks. But issue 80 is that last one that you definitely want to be mindful of because it is the final issue of Supergirl here. Before, again, she got rebooted a few times after this. So this particular issue, copies that sold, look, what is that? That's a 9/8 sold for $75. Hey, it's not bad. And only $10 on a raw copy there with it's actually the last two issues, 79 and 80 for only $10. So once again, you're not going to get rich for finding this, but it's a fun little thing to know and a fun little thing to hunt. Asking prices are more $15, $18. So you're looking in the $15 to $20 asking range for this book. What actually sells might be a little cheaper, but just to give you a sense. That's why I give you both, because asking prices and what people pay are not always the same. There's usually some place you can play in the middle, depending on what you find, what you pay, etc. So that's all information for you to make of it what you will. Now, to wrap us up here, I've got 3 more books, and these 3 are 3 properties very near and dear to my heart. As a kid who grew up in the 80s, yes, I was born in the late 70s, but I still consider myself an 80s kid because that's when I grew up, and these IPs come from that era. Starting off with, as if you saw the thumbnail and if you saw the IG post going in, we're hitting up Thundercats. So Thundercats Ho! Issue 24 is the final issue of that original Thundercats run. I know Thundercats issue 1 has taken off And over the last few years, the speculation has gone rampant. It used to be a super, super cheap book, but then all of a sudden, that book costs you an arm and a leg now if you want a Thundercats issue 1. And it's a 24-issue run. This is the final issue here. Oddball cover, not a great cover at all. You wouldn't even know this is the final issue, but it is. And with that, it also is not that cheap. Just so you know, getting into it here, copies have sold, and this book does sell for $30, $40, best offer on $45. So $30 to $40 copies have sold within the last couple of months. Asking prices, however, could be as cheap as $20 or as high as $100 to $120. So wide range on this bad boy. So if you're looking for your Thundercats, trying to complete that Thundercats run, you got your work cut out for you, because some of these are a little tough. Yeah, issue 24 is that one. So you got Kit and can't remember the other one. Anyway, the little kids there on the cover. So once again, not a great cover, but that is the final issue of that comic series. Another honestly not great cover on the finale of a comic series. These last two you guys will probably already know, but there's plenty of people who don't know. So I make content for everybody. Make it for all. So different levels of collectors have something to go and look for. But not a great cover here on Transformers number 80. This is the final issue in the final Transformers run there from that original 80s run before the property moved over to, I think it was like Dreamwave, IDW had it, Image had it for a bit. It bounced around all these indie properties. And we're getting Transformers again out of Skybound soon. But here, the epic conclusion of the Transformers series happened in issue 80. All of these last issues, I'd say the last 10 or so, are pretty tough to find and can get you a nice profit if you can find them cheap enough. So keep that in mind as well. But let's just focus in on here on the actual final issue. So with issue 80, you're looking at returns of, what do we have here? The last couple of sales. $43 on three bids at an auction. Another auction that had a dozen bids, $81 on that one. And then $550 for a 9.8. All in August, right? Yeah, those are all August sales. Those are all pretty recent. These aren't the only sales over the last 3 months. These are recent sales, semi-recent. So this book there's people looking for it. People, like I said, this is one that is known and desired issue for Transformers collectors. Asking prices here, also not cheap. You're looking at, $89 up to $120. Whether it's newsstand or direct, I wouldn't be going too crazy to pay too much for a newsstand, but there are newsstand collectors as you get into the 90s who really want that newsstand. And then a 9.6 looking for $400. So once again, not a cheap book at all. This is one that's been known for a while. And again, I'm not breaking new ground here, but telling you about this book. I'm just sharing some great final issues for you to go and look for. And Transformers is one of them. And the other is my most favorite 80s property, and that is G.I. Joe, Real American Hero. So, epic Marvel run ran 155 issues. 155 issues is a long time. And then this series eventually wrapped up here. This is it, the final issue of G.I. Joe, Real American Hero, until it got rebooted, not even once, but twice. You'll see that IDW, Image, etc., apart from renumbering, a couple of times they picked up their numbering from 155. Crazy, continuing those stories. But big G.I. Joe fan. And this book is tough to find, at least definitely tough to find cheap. Once again, the last issues, in this case, for G.I. Joe, I would venture all the way back to like the 130s, are all worth grabbing if it's cheap enough. Because there's a lot of stuff that happens in those final like 20 issues. You got the Transformers crossover there in the like 130s. You got some Snake Eyes stuff that happened as well. Everybody loves Snake Eyes. They were featuring some of those like new vamped like the Tiger Force and the Python Patrol. Those weird recolored, remastered G.I. Joe toys that kind of came out near the end of the run. That stuff is what got spotlighted here in the end of the comic series as well. So that weird oddball type of stuff has a lot of people still looking for it. So that's why you get a nice little premium if you can find any of those final issues of G.I. Joe. I mean, really, I get excited if I find anything that's actually above 100. I mean, I know that's a third of the run, but it's true. I mean, it is what it is. Right at around 102, you had that Snake Eye Storm Shadow a little bit too, that 3 issues. But I think we've talked about that before. Don't want to get sidetracked too much. Issue 155. How much will you get if you find yourself a 155? Well, recent sales will show you 150 bucks, 120, 140, $150. So again, not cheap. A couple of those are at auction, but by and large, you get what you ask for. Like asking price, you get it. And when you look at the asking prices here, 155, 200, 190, $875 for a 9.8. It's an expensive book. So, with that, it is worth knowing. So, if you didn't know it already, make sure you put that one in your brain. Remember this cover because you never know. You never know what you might stumble across. You might be out with family and friends. You just stumble through some flea market and you see this book at a yard sale or something like that. Who knows what you might find? That's the point of knowing all of the trying to know all this information. You never know what you might find in your area. It's not hunting isn't equal for everybody. Different areas, different amount of hunters, knowledge bases are different, etc. Places you can get comics are different. But little information never hurt anybody. So trying to spread that information, trying to spread that knowledge so you guys all know more comics to be aware of that could get you a few extra bucks or just really, be nice additions to your collection. Anyway, that's all I got for you this week. That's another dozen books of Last to Know. We'll do this again. I still got at least another couple of runs planned out for this series, but I'm going to mix them in, not overdo it, and do these over and over again because I know you like the regular lineup of hidden gems as well. So once again, I'm going to be playing around with the schedule a bit in the weeks ahead. More to come on that. You'll see why. I got to kind of shuffle things around a little bit, but you're by and large, you're still going to be getting all the content that I love producing for all of you. But I might have to pivot a little bit after Baltimore Comic-Con, which is this week. So I will be down in Baltimore. Mark will be down there. Bruce will be down there. Sticks, I think, is going down there. I'm not sure about Dom. A bunch of the guys from the channel are going to be down there in Baltimore. So come say hello, hang out. We'll go look for comics. Just have fun, just enjoying this hobby. So if you're going, send me a little DM on IG. Look for me. Or if you see me, just stop me and say hello. Just a dude looking for comics. And with that all said, thank you again. And we'll be back soon with some more content. All right. Later.